Good afternoon, evening, morning, whatever time it is when you are listening to this show. This is Carolina Dad. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Two Girls, One For podcast. It's been a freaking busy week, and it's funny. I'm sitting here laughing at myself before I recorded this. See, y'all know I don't cuss on the show at all. Guess there was one time. But anyways, when I do all my pre-recordings trying to get this thing right, I cuss like a freaking sailor, man. So, one day I'm just going to record that just so y'all can see. I won't post it as an actual podcast episode, but just so you can see the pure chaos of me trying to get this set up. Man, it's frustrating because I have one piece of software for video, I have another piece of software for audio. I have to do it like that because I realize that the video recording is through mono or stereo. I don't know. I'm not a tech person when it comes to recording, but it comes out one ear and not the other. And then I found out there's a workaround where you can take the video, put it in a GarageBand, which is what I use, and then split it, fix it. It's too much work. Plus my freaking Mac can't take it, man. I'm doing everything I can in my power to keep this going. All right, enough jabbering. Let's talk about the game this week. We are previewing a football game regardless of the Panthers moving on from Frank Reich. They've got a game to play. Chris Tabor is going to be leading this team, and I'm here to get you prepared. Welcome, Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans. The last time we played Tampa Bay, we were fighting for a playoff spot. Tom Brady and the Bucs came in and torched us, man. CJ Henderson gave up 2 touchdowns to Mike Evans. I think it could have been more if I recall right. One of them, he got burnt and Mike Evans just dropped the ball. CJ Henderson trending in the direction of being able to play this week. You know, you can call this the Baker Mayfield revenge game if you'd like. And I think there may be fans in Carolina that are mad about, you know, Baker Mayfield, mad at Sam Darnold, whatever it is. I'm here to vouch for Baker Mayfield as a person. And I put it out there on X this week. Like, when we went to training camp last year, he was one of the only players going through the line, making sure to talk to every single person when possible, get an autograph, give an autograph. Yeah, it didn't work out on the field. We know he landed in LA. But as far as the person and who he is, he even talked about it this week. He said, you know, great times in Carolina, things didn't pan out. He had to get out of Cleveland, which he did. And now, pretty decent season. Record-wise, the last, 6 out of 7 games they've lost, but they did start out pretty hot. Started out hot. He's 17 touchdowns, I believe, to 7 interceptions. We know about the weapons on the offensive side of the ball. So coming into this game, what a disaster it is in the NFC South. Not that we did not expect it to be a disaster. We expected it to be a disaster that the Panthers would recover from and win. Oh my goodness. Here we are, 1-10. Tampa Bay's 4-7. There is a chance, I saw SportsCenter tweet this out or post it, that there's a chance that the Panthers are technically still not eliminated from the playoffs, although we anticipate them being eliminated. Yes, it would have to be 7-10. The 7-10 Panthers could host a home playoff game. What a freaking world of rubbish that would be. Like, please do not even get us to that point. Every team in the NFC South with a losing record. Ugh. And so, yeah, as I mentioned this week, I spent some time listening to Baker, listening to Todd Bowles. There's pressure there in Tampa. And one of the things that was asked to Todd Bowles was just about the situation with the change. And it's a lot of coach speak about, yeah, we understand what's on that side of the ball or what's happening over there. We can't really do anything about that, but we can control what we can control in our building, which is getting better. And getting better they should, as every team that has played the Carolina Panthers to this point has gotten right, minus the Texans. Don't know what happened there. It still blows my mind that the Panthers won a game and were able to pull that off. But hey, maybe with interim coach Tabor and just a change of scenery for the team, getting out of Carolina, they pull this off. We have seen over the past few years interim head coaches having success in their first game. I think someone posted that the last 3 interim head coaches to take over, I think the record's like 3-1 against the spread. Don't quote me on that. So if you're like betting or thinking about betting on this, like pump the brakes, go do your research. Don't say that Carolina Dad told me to place the bet. So yeah. Speaking of bet lines, 5.5 points for Tampa Bay. Yeah, I think they would cover that. We were talking about the second worst offense in Panthers history at 15.7 points per game. On the flip side, defense that does not give up a lot of points, or excuse me, we give up points, does not give up a lot of yardage. And for those that are listening into this, you probably are like, well, I want to hear your take around the Tepper press conference. That's coming. It's coming in a later episode. I'll probably post it after this. I did do a breakdown on just my initial thoughts on the firing. I also went, if you follow me on Instagram, and you can go out there and do it, or follow, posted an 8-minute video of how I felt about Tepper's presser. And I don't think it's right for me to talk about that on this particular preview, because I like to, like I said, I've got a schedule with a preview of a game, a breakdown of the game, and then anything that happens in between. And it's been a busy week, and I've already recorded 2. This will be the 3rd episode, probably a 4th episode coming. And it's been busy, been a busy week. And for Tampa Bay fans, I doubt they want to sit here and listen to me ramble about Tepper. So as I said, Tampa Bay started off, beat Minnesota, beat Chicago, lost to Philadelphia. Hey, a lot of teams are going to lose to Philadelphia. Beat New Orleans, sitting there at 3-1, and I remember them sitting there at 3-1 thinking, man, this team may be legit. They have their bye, things fall apart. They lost to Detroit, Atlanta, Buffalo, Houston, beat Tennessee, lost to the 49ers, and then last week lost a tough game to the Colts. So they went from 3-1 to now 4-7, again winning 1 out of their last 7 games. So 1-6 over the last 7 games. And we know Carolina's not much better. You know, it's funny, this game got flexed to the mid-afternoon 4:05 kickoff at Tampa Bay. Originally, I think it was going to be an earlier kickoff, but nobody's going to watch this game. And I think there's a lot better, more better games, or better games, I should say, in the afternoon slot that the rest of the country would have loved to tune in. Now, we can talk a little bit about the transactions, and like at this point I'm like, who cares? That's just where I'm at this point in the season. I care. I'm just messing with y'all. More news, man. It's just it's been rough. So we signed Matthias Farley back to the practice squad. We released defensive tackle Rashard Lewis from the practice squad. Signed guard Gabe Jackson. He's actually signed to the practice squad, so a lot of people may have thought that he was coming in with, of course, the injuries that we've had to take over and maybe even getting some decent playing time. I don't know if he'll be elevated. Sounds like could find out later this week. No idea what Tabor's going to want to do. Really, Thomas Brown, Jim Caldwell, as they think about this newer offense. Chandler Zavala placed on IR. Not season ending, but it's 6 weeks left in the year, folks. IR puts you out there for 4 weeks. Good chance he doesn't make his return. We then signed Deontay Brown back to the practice squad. We had released him originally in the year. Jake Lutton got released, quarterback, and then Laviska Shenault placed on IR as well. And then just with what's happened in the quarterback room, cornerback Shaquille Griffin was signed off of, or claimed off of waivers, I should say, and he's cornerback. You know, these acquisitions, and like I said, I don't want to really get into the Tepper press conference and or thoughts around Fitter, but, you know, it's 6 weeks left in the season. I see some fans out there that were complaining about some of the acquisitions that we did not make, or waiver claims we did not make, and that's fine. But, like, we're not a competitive football team. We're 1-10. Some of these guys had not huge contracts, but pretty decent-sized contracts, and, like, you're getting them for the rest of this year, and does it really make sense to retain them? I don't know. Anyways, folks, when we talk about these two teams, and I've kind of talked a little bit about what we've seen primarily in the Carolina offense. Now, this week and Todd Bowles even mentioned this, and I said it too. I don't think we're going to see this like revamped offense that's just night and day from what it's been. There's just not enough time, and really it's been less than a week to create an install. And I see people are like, well, I hope we move to a power run scheme. Do you know how complicated it is for a team to change their playbook and or a scheme? It's not like you can just go and say, okay, guys, I know we've done this way for 12, 13 weeks, whatever it is. We're going to switch over. And now I know when we called this play originally, the scheme was for you to go and get this man, cover this gap. And now we're going to change all that. It's not feasible to think that that's going to happen. Now, maybe in the next game after this or closing out the season, possibly. So I wouldn't expect night and day, but what I do expect is an opportunity for Raheem Blackshear to be more involved in the offense, an opportunity for Amir Smith-Marset, who we have seen in spurts, who has playmaking ability, to be involved, and then Strachan and Sullivan. You've got a few targets there. We saw how terrible this offense is and or was when Adam Thielen was locked down last week. You hope you don't see that again. I think it just goes to show you, though, like, can you imagine if we did not get Adam in the offseason, how bad we would be looking right now on offense? I mean, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine. I'm glad I don't have to. Tampa Bay, very solid run defense. Their front and their linebackers, very stout team. When I look at their rushing statistics on the defensive side of the ball, they're top 10 in almost every category with yards per rush, rushes per game, rushing yards per game that they give up. So a top 10 in almost all those categories. We know we're at the bottom side. Our rushing attack is terrible, has been terrible, will continue to be terrible, at least for now. Tampa Bay, rushing attack, their rushing attack, not much better. Like both teams don't run the ball that well, but when you play Carolina, there's a decent opportunity for you to get right running the ball. I think I went back and I was looking at the last game for Tampa Bay, tried to go through some of their highlights, staying in the loop, and I think they did have a 100-yard rusher against the Colts. Try to pull it up to make sure I am quoting you correctly on this, and of course I hit the wrong thing, man. It's just part of what happens. Let's try this again, see if the old man over here can learn how to use a computer. Yeah, we did. So White did have 15 carries for 100 yards. I thought I saw that correctly, so making sure we got that in tune. So yeah, opportunity for their team, like we've seen with a lot of teams, run the ball. Baker Mayfield, like I said, a really solid year for him. 64.7% completion percentage, 2,500 passing yards, 17 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, sacked considerably less than Bryce Young with only 26 sacks compared to Bryce's 40. And receiving, because I already kind of hit on rushing, but you've got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, two dynamic receivers. Mike Evans, one of the top receivers in touchdowns. He's got 850 yards. Chris Godwin, 606 yards. I mean, Mike Evans is the target, and he seems to come alive in the red zone with Baker Mayfield. We also know that Baker Mayfield can stretch the ball down the field. He will take shots, so I would anticipate them trying to take advantage of the cornerback room, whether JC actually makes it back. Now, speaking to JC Horn, he technically has until Monday to be elevated before he'd have to go back on IR in this 21-day window. So there is a chance that he doesn't get elevated. However, he could still come back, and that would just really push it to the next day. So he could technically miss one more game. Now, one of the other things when you talk about Tampa Bay is their pass defense, and I'm reluctant to even bring this up because I think I feel like every team that the Panthers have played has had a horrible pass defense, and it doesn't mean anything, man. It just doesn't mean a thing when we play other teams and their stats are terrible or whatever it is. Carolina is going to get smoked. Like, we just don't figure it out. But if we were to maybe figure it out, and I had it pulled up here and I wanted to make sure I touched on it, talking about their pass defense, 29th in yards per pass, 31st in yards per game. It's there. But now where they make up for it, like I said, is with their linebacker play and stopping the run, and we can't run the ball. We certainly are not going to be dropping back and throwing the ball 50 times, although we do like to throw the ball almost 64% of the time, as we've talked about here on the show. It's one of these things where, Tabor's talked about it. This is an audition not only for the coaching staff, whether they'll be retained or not, for this entire team and roster, and it could be a new GM. It'll be a new coach, whether it's someone that's already on the roster or we bring in someone else next year, evaluating this team and figuring out where is this team going. Scoring margin. Tampa Bay is about 1.4 point difference in scoring margin. We are 10.8, continuing to be the worst in the league. They're putting up about 19 points per game, so a little over 4 more than we are, giving up 20 points, and we are giving up 26 points per game. Yards, we only give up 265 yards. I don't get it. Tampa Bay at home this year, however, has not played great, only scoring 15.4 points per game at home and giving up about 16.8, so being outscored at home. But, you talk about Carolina and Carolina playing on the road. That is a whole nother story because we have been absolutely terrible on the road. I mean, it's not even close. Now, I had one other thing that I was going to try, just a quick overview before we close out this preview episode. Talked about the time, talked about the terrible division. No one has a winning record. So Tampa Bay is actually, if they win, looking at Saints and Falcons, and they lose, they're right back in the mix. Carolina does lead the all-time series. They played 45 times. Carolina leads it 25-20. We know they got a dangerous passing attack with Baker Mayfield. I don't know that I'd call it dangerous. They have a middle of the pack passing attack, putting up about 228 yards per game. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, we've talked about what they do on the offensive side of the ball, and they like to terrorize the Panthers. That's just, been in their DNA. I think they said Chris Godwin is averaging 5.8 yards per game in his last 8 games against the Panthers. Why not? And we talked, the rushing attack is second in the league. White is second in the league in receiving yards for a running back, 389 yards. So getting him involved in the passing game, he's only trailing Christian McCaffrey. And they're the only players with 500 rushing yards and 300 receiving yards. So very dynamic back that can get involved in the pass game. And, we've seen what that looks like here in Carolina with having a back that's able to do that. Where they have seen success in getting Baker involved is the Tristan Wirfs, who was a right tackle last year, moved over to left tackle this offseason, and he's only given up 3 sacks through 12 weeks. Much different scenario than what we've seen over here with good old Ike Ekwonu and our line that continues to fall apart. Defensively, I hit on most of the key points, but Levante David, Devin White, we know it starts with them. They really are 2 of the best linebackers in the league. I think they said from week 6 through week 11 of the 2023 season, David has 4 more tackles for loss than any player and is tied for third with 14 on the year. And then since 2019, White is the NFL's best inside linebacker with 16 quarterback hits, 22 and a half sacks. That's not a good recipe. Not a good recipe for our poor interior offensive line that I don't know what to expect this week. We tried things. Is it going to be Nash Jensen? Is it going to be Toth again? Is it going to be Cade Mays? Is it going to be all of them because of everything that's happened with the line shaking up? So, yeah, guess we will find out. Now, prediction time. Next year I think I'm going to have to predict every game, not on the show, but in general, predict every game just to give myself a little bit of sanity. And I say that acting like that's going to help. We do a family college football pick'em, just straight up pick'em, 9 games per week over the course of the season, 13 weeks. Now we're doing, conference championships. And I'm like middle of the pack, closer to the bottom tier. Yeah, this guy over here getting beat out by both sister-in-laws, my father-in-law. We've got another family friend in there, Nolan. Yeah, I don't even look at the standings. I don't even want to know. The more names I give, the more I realize I'm at the bottom of this thing, man. And Pearson is in this thing. My wife's in it. Everybody's in it. But Pearson's, I think, a little over 50% on his picks. Our 10-month-old is that close to beating me, and he just picks up a little piece of paper and does it. So I say all that like, yeah, me going in here and actually picking, all the NFL games to try to say that that's going to make me feel better about picks. Anyways, I picked Carolina to win last week. That didn't happen. I want to pick them to win this week, but it's like I'm back in the mode of like, why? What is there? Like, what's the benefit of me picking them? I think it'll be competitive, and I do think we will see a close game because they're division rivals. I think the Buccaneers get the best of us, and we lose. Let's see. 5 games, there'll be 5 games left. So anyway, yeah, like that's going to impact anything. I'm going to say Tampa Bay 21, Carolina 15. Now, I'd love to see a Panthers win and shock the world. Not really shocking the world, beating a 4-7 team, but it'd be nice. All right, y'all. Hey, if you've tuned in this long, get ready because coming up soon, I will be dropping my reaction to the Tepper presser. Y'all have a good one.